Let me get this right. You don't want to make probabilities on Brexit, but given a comment like this today from Michael Saunders, even if it's difficult to trade the pound with Brexit headlines, does this headline make you more inclined to sell the pound?
I think overall my bias is still negative on cable because I think it will ultimately get dragged lower with euro dollar, and there are structural and cyclical factors which are doing that. Cable should ultimately follow it. I think it's very clear now we're headed to snap elections. I think once that date becomes certain, there will be an initial knee-jerk reaction lower. I'm not saying it's going to bring us firmly below 120 in cable, but I think my preference is, especially now, that 125 level, if we were to get back up there, I think those are attractive entry levels for short in cable.
So election risk, why do you see that as cable negative? Just walk me through the thinking there.
Well, there are positives and negatives associated with it. It's a very confusing picture, as are the electoral maths, which we won't even get into. This is going to be a field day, this election, for people who study electoral statistics and electoral maths, because I think it's going to break historical norms in many different ways in terms of how the election's fought. But, you know, with Labour being muddled on Brexit, the Lib Dems having very clear policy on Brexit, the Conservatives arguably probably having a more sterling supportive economic policy agenda, but also preferring, it seems, a no-deal Brexit, the balance of risk is kind of even.
Yeah.
So it's a tough trade right now. But on balance, I would think you have to look for opportunities to fade cable strength.
Are vol curves telling you that everything is possible right now? What are they telling you?
Look, let's just rewind. Brexit, I think, in some sense, you could argue, is working marvelously because it's done two things. The first thing it's done is exposed a rotten core at the heart of British politics and an enormous gap between popular and parliamentary sovereignty. And when you have a situation where the Constitution is being rewritten on a day-by-day basis, there is no possible way to predict what is going to happen tomorrow and next week. That's what the vol curve suggests at the moment. In addition to that, the fact that probably, at least at this point, it looks like the European Council mid to late October is going to be a non-event. The other thing that Brexit has done, which in my mind is very clear, all politics, personal politics aside, is that every time Brussels opens its mouth and every time Leave voters see what is going on in Westminster, it reaffirms why they voted Leave in the first place. So Brexit, in a sense, is working marvelously well. In another sense, it's complete chaos. It's a difficult, no, that's an understatement. It's an impossible environment to predict. But if you pressed me hard enough, I would say probably still look to sell Rallies in cable.